Hi, Wayne Chapin from Zerillion here. I'm about to introduce to you an edited version of the single best presentation that I've seen at a Microsoft conference in the 7 that I've been to. And I've been to 4 Microsoft Inspire conferences, which are more sales and marketing related, and 3 Microsoft Ignite conferences, which are technical. But 2 years later, sitting here in 2019 making this video, this session that I saw in 2017 is still the best one. This presentation made me really understand what Microsoft's vision for a modern workplace is, and how Microsoft Teams fits into that, and how the Microsoft phone system plays a critical role in making Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 work for businesses. It's an important thing to understand that to Microsoft, Microsoft Teams is the new Outlook. And what makes this presentation even more interesting is the fact that the first 25 minutes of this 1 hour and 15-minute presentation, the first 25 minutes starts out with a fascinating story. The person telling the story is named Albert Koyman, who is a product manager at Microsoft and who has been with Microsoft in the phone systems group since 2001, when Microsoft was deciding to get into the phone system business. And Albert starts the story with being in a meeting room with Bill Gates and Albert's group, the phone product group, presenting their idea of how to get Microsoft in the phone system business, and Bill Gates getting really aggravated with the proposal that they're coming up with. So Albert starts the story in 2001 with a meeting with Bill Gates and ends the story with a powerful vision of Microsoft Teams. The presentation was titled, when I saw it in the listing, "Is the Cloud PBX Right for You?" which really wasn't much of a standout title. But I think a better, more appropriate title for the presentation would have been The Microsoft Teams Revolution. So what I've done in this video is taken an hour and 15-minute presentation, as I mentioned, and edited it down to the best, most interesting, fascinating 15 minutes. At the end of this video, you're really going to understand what Microsoft's vision for Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, and the Microsoft phone system is, and their idea of a modern collaborative workplace. Plus, if you're a Microsoft fan like me and you want to hear a very cool story, you're going to hear one from a product manager that has been with Microsoft since 2001 all the way through 2017 when he gave this presentation. And the historical part is fascinating because it starts with Microsoft pitching this idea of getting into the phone system business by buying a box-on-the-wall hardware PBX. They were just going to buy a company, and then they were going to create soft phones to connect into this system, and so people would use these soft phones on Windows. And then that drove all the way to Office Communication Server. Then that became Link Server. Then Microsoft bought Skype, and then Link Server got rebranded as Skype for Business, all the way through to today, which is now the Microsoft phone system and Microsoft Teams. And all of this strategy gets us to this one key point, which is that Microsoft is on their way to becoming a large global telecom. So fair warning on this, I have the PowerPoint slide portion, I have the audio, but I don't have the video of Albert being on stage, unfortunately. But I tried to make up for this by putting the key points. You're going to see them come up on the screen. I'm going to write them out, and they're going to hit you like that, and then they're going to disappear. They're going to hit you and then disappear. All that being said, if you like hearing a good story and you like to hear some Microsoft history, this video is going to be well worth your time. So let's go ahead and get you into the story. So I'm going to take you right to the point in the story where Albert and his group, the phone systems group, is in a meeting room with Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates is no longer the CEO. He handed that over to Steve Ballmer. He is the chief technology officer in the company. So the product groups have to present things every 6 months and show Bill Gates what they're up to, and Bill gives us feedback and stuff like that. So imagine a meeting room. Albert and his group are in there. They're all there, and they're presenting this idea of buying a hardware PBX company and rebranding it as a Microsoft product and getting in the phone system business. And Bill Gates hates the idea. I hope you enjoy the story.
My name is Albert Koyman. I started in early 2000s in Microsoft. In those years, every half a year you would still be visited by Bill Gates, and you could present your plan to him. And the reason why I start here is because when you are looking at the evolution of communications, it all started in a meeting that we had with Bill Gates, where we wanted to do something with the telephone. When we got in front of him, what essentially happened is we said, hey, we are now having Windows, we are having Office, but if you actually look at your desk, there was now this PC, that part of his vision that he had delivered, but there was also this old phone. That's very hardware-centric. We had a big PBX in Microsoft. We proposed to him, if the phone rings, I need to go away from my PC, I need to pick up my phone, and those two worlds are not connected. So when we went ahead to him and said, Bill, there is really an opportunity here in voice, in this telephone system. And we said, we would love to actually buy a PBX company and have Microsoft enter into this world. I do not know if you ever heard descriptions of how a meeting with Bill Gates is. It is not undynamic, let's call it like that. So with other words, he was literally like almost blowing up. And so he was listening to us for a little while, and then literally what happened was like, he stopped us, he then banged his head on the table and said, guys, what is your strategy? And everyone tried to answer it, and he got more and more angry. And then he finally spoke those words that effectively are the start of everything in Microsoft that we are doing around communications. He said, our strategy is software. And that is so important to understand, because in the early 2000s, no one was ever thinking about telephony as something that makes your application essentially an endpoint, makes it the phone itself. So with other words, if you start working, what is more logical that you work and you talk to others right from within that application? And that was the journey that he set us out on. Try to rethink everything in the world of telephony as software. Don't think about hard copper wires. Don't think about a system that is separate from what is going on the desktop, but think about communications that is going on in the desktop. You can already see now where we are going, right? So that mindset. He then appointed a guy called Gurdeep Singh Pal. And Gurdeep Singh Pal actually took a look around. Now we are talking about 2002, right? And he essentially said, if you look at the communications world, all those different communications modalities that you had in those days, whether this was a PBX or a voicemail system or even a fax, they were all silos. If you had a video system, a video teleconferencing, it was 8323, but it was separate. So he said, no, we do not only need to think about communications as software, but I'm going to build from scratch a new communications platform that breaks down those silos. In 2006, I wrote the first press release where we, as Microsoft, used the word unified communications. And it sounds unimaginable, but at that point in time, it was not a very often used term. A year later, it was. But that was the first time that we said, hey, as Microsoft, we want to build a unified communications platform. We went to a show called VoiceCon, and we said, we have the best thing since sliced bread. You can get rid of all your phones. We have something new for you, unified communications platform. And in 2007, we released that particular product. It was called Office Communication Server 2007. And in Office Communication Server 2007, we were very proud because we were actually in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and we were a leader. So you should realize that the moment that we actually were in market and we were very gangbusters about it, hey, this is the most beautiful product that we had ever built, that when the reception of guys like yourselves was like, this is not really what we are looking for. We actually want unified communications, but we also want a phone. We want a normal PBX. And between Office Communication Server 2007 and 2007 R2 and until Link Server 2010, our whole team of, at that time, 400 developers was building features that essentially closed the gap of what was called the voice RFP, so that we could, on premises, offer a product that at least would have parity with those PBXs that were in use until that moment. And we went a little bit overboard there, because on the one hand side, we had built this beautiful platform that was a unified communications platform, but then all of a sudden we started talking about the phone a lot. And again, there was a little course correction, because you guys essentially told us what we really need is that phone system that you're building, that PBX that you're building, but we also want to have all that other stuff. And that was this Link Server 2013 that we built. Now, by that time, the world had completely changed. The world had become mobile. The world had become very internet-centric. And I can tell you one thing, the stuff that we built did not work on a mobile. It did not work on a mobile for two reasons. On the one hand side, it kept your cell phone on all the time and essentially drained your battery in no time. I do not know if you guys remember Link Mobile. It was the most horrifying client. It kept your battery and drained your battery, but it was also based on SIP. And one of the things that happens at that moment when you start talking SIP, I do not know if you know this session initiation protocol that very often used in voice over IP. At that very moment that it starts talking, it is very talkative. And if you have crappy networks like here in the United States, you are out of luck. The amount of messages that got lost on Link Mobile 2010 was horrifying. So I remember that in 2009, I went to my management together with another guy, Stefan, and we said, this needs to change. We cannot use SIP anymore over mobile. So we started designing a new API that was essentially an internet protocol-based API. It was based on HTTP. And I'm telling you all these things because if you're looking at what we are building currently, that is essentially what is happening. So we are switching protocols from SIP to HTTP. The first clients where that surfaced was in the new mobile clients. This was the UC Web API. And this UC Web API was not only for mobile, but it also could be deeply integrated into web pages. I do not know if you are familiar with this term called WebRTC, but we worked very, very hard with the W3C and all the companies in there to make it possible that essentially every web page could be a start and a stop of an audio call, of a video call. So what you see here is this whole evolution of where we essentially proposed to buy a PBX, then found out, okay, actually we can do this radically different as software. We built this horizontal platform where you can essentially do any communications modality from text to voice to video to sharing. And then we said, okay, this was all used to be based on SIP. We are switching all this SIP protocol out and we are going towards web-based, mobile-based technology. The next thing that happened was in 2007, we bought Skype. At that point in time, Skype was very big, but what was more important to us was that Skype essentially has an infrastructure to be a global carrier. All around the world, Skype consumer has ingress and egress points where you can make phone calls. So we made a calculated bet and we said, we want to be a global telco. Very interesting because the moment that we bought Skype, we immediately got letters from governments from all across the world who were saying, if you want to be a telco, let me tell you what it means to be a telco. And they listed out all the specifications of regulatory stuff that we needed to do, all the taxation stuff. So we are still working on it, on making sure that all the stuff that we built also is compliant with all those rules. But when we announced that we brought Office 365 audio conferencing to Teams, we went live in over 90 countries overnight. So we have telephony capabilities for conferencing in 90 countries. We are essentially now becoming a large global telco. So Skype is interesting because of all its consumer cachet and the beautiful stuff that is happening there. But what was really important to us is that we essentially acquired a lot of expertise, a Skype infrastructure that could allow us to become a global telco. When you become a global telco, you have to build a lot of infrastructure. So that's where the whole integration with Office 365 started, and with Azure. So we now are in data centers across the world. We now have a very scalable architecture. But the thing that we are doing at this very moment is we are essentially bringing Skype for Business onto that new infrastructure that we built on the basis of all the work and the learnings that we had from Skype. So there is essentially, when we are talking about bringing calling to Teams, there is a client now, another client, the Teams client, that hub for collaboration as a team, the hub for teamwork. We are bringing the calling capabilities to Teams by hooking Teams up to that Skype backend. And that's essentially what is happening now. So things are changing again. I spoke to you about that we wanted it to be software. We wanted it to be seamless between all the modalities. We wanted to actually offer enterprise-grade telephony. We want to offer this on a global scale. But there is new changes coming. And those new changes are very much around the way how people work. And that is essentially what is the whole core essence of why we started building Microsoft Teams. We wanted to essentially tap into that new development where people start working more in a collaborative spirit and essentially bring everything together into Microsoft Teams and enable them to no longer just make calls, but make a call in the continuum of all the other work that they're doing. We also want to make sure that we are no longer essentially losing the context of what happens before a call and what happens after a call. So there is nothing more logical that when you are working in your team, in your channel, and you're talking to others, that there would be that context of that you made that phone call in that conversation. So with other words, Teams is becoming the repository of everything. Calls are not only calls, but truly in the spirit of this unified communications vision that we had. We are enabling everyone to go seamlessly from an audio call to a meeting. And in that meeting, you will be able to do video, you will be able to share stuff on a one-on-one basis or with the whole team. You will be able to go back if you had a meeting and you can see the recording of that particular meeting inside your Teams client and you can listen to it. You can read it because, as you know, we are bringing transcription to Teams and to the meetings in Teams. So with other words, this communications is evolving into what Satya Nadella dubbed as intelligent communications. I spoke about the whole dimension of more collaborative Teams work, but there is another part of the strategy which is also extremely important, and that development is around digitization of the workspace. So with other words, if you are creating content, whether this is a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, whether this is an email, or whether this is a phone call or a meeting, that content actually contains value for your enterprise. And what we are working on in this concept of intelligent communications is that we actually capture all that content, that we capture that for you, and we build this massive repository of knowledge that you have in your company. And that repository of content that we have, we make it accessible. And you can learn from other stuff that has been created by a colleague of yours just by essentially being able to query it and by asking, do we have any information on this or that? The real revolution now, what is happening is that this is not only about text. In the coming years, this is also going to be about audio and about video. Just a moment ago, I spoke about the meetings being recorded in Teams. You will be able to essentially record the meeting, post it inside the team or capture it inside the team, and then our speech services platform will kick in. It will start analyzing what has been spoken, it will analyze who has spoken, and it will transcribe everything in there into text that you can search. It is that same platform around the speech services that has also translation capabilities. So we currently are translated into 9 languages on demand, even in real time or close to real time. That is one example of how this capturing of audio and of video in very high fidelity is going to be absolutely critical, and how we are effectively giving our resources that we have around artificial intelligence and democratize it in the sense that you all can consume that. This is not only our plan with meetings. This is also possible if you feel that you need to record your audio. Again, you have the choice there, or the end user will have the choice. But we will be able to record it. We will be able to transcribe it. And you will thereafter be able to, hey, I spoke about this with someone some little while ago. You will, just like you do now in OneNote, you can type it in and it will do a phonetic search or it will do a text search. It will find the stuff that you spoke about. Artificial intelligence will become so smart that it will extract what are the action items that you agreed on and will do the summary for you. All those changes are happening now, but that will come all to Teams. And in order to do that, you not only need to build this in artificial intelligence, you need to build great user software like Teams, and you need to capture that content with as highest fidelity as possible. So with other words, when we are speaking about room systems that will do Microsoft Teams meetings, at that very moment, what our attention is to be able to capture the audio input from the people who are speaking in a meeting room in a very high quality. So we are releasing specifications to our hardware partners that we say, hey, this microphone really needs to be capable of people speaking at the same time. So here in a nutshell, I gave you an introduction of my whole world in Microsoft. I've always worked in this team and tried to make you understand why are we doing this thing called intelligent communications? Why are we doing this thing of bringing the hub application that you have as in Microsoft Teams? That is, if you are looking at, is a cloud PBX from Office 365, from Microsoft, is that the right thing for you? I think you should also realize that with it, it is not only dial tone that we are providing, but it is essentially this vision that we have that there is content that actually is created when you have a phone call. And that content will be actually of value to your enterprise if you can disclose that content in more efficient ways. And that is what we are trying to do with intelligent communications.
So there it is, the single best presentation that I have ever seen at a Microsoft conference. And now you can see that Microsoft is quietly becoming a large global telecom. And the Microsoft phone system, Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft 365 are the key components to make that vision happen. Now, if you're interested in Microsoft Teams, but you're unsure how to get your company into Teams, well, it's a key concept that you can't be in Microsoft Teams by yourself. So you'll have a generational divide at your company. Some people will be very interested in Teams and some people won't care at all. But the thing you can do is, because in your Office 365 or your Microsoft 365 subscription, you have Teams. And you also can add on the phone system. And you also have a file server inside of your Office 365 subscription. So this would be your team strategy. And this is what I tell most people. To get into Teams, you can get in there by migrating your old phone system into the Microsoft phone system and accessing it through Teams. But for those people who don't want to use Teams or the Teams app or a soft phone, we will just hook them up with a Yealink desk phone on their desk, just like they're used to. Problem solved. So those people who want to use Teams and get really into Teams and collaborate it and are totally fine working with a soft phone through the Microsoft Teams desktop app or the Microsoft Teams mobile app, fantastic. They can work that way with a headset. Everybody else is used to working with a desk phone, can just access the Microsoft phone system that way, and they don't even have to work with Microsoft Teams. The other way to get into Teams is getting your file server migrated into Office 365 finally. I know that's a huge topic. People are paying for Office 365 subscriptions and they know they've got all this space up in SharePoint online for them to work with, but they can't figure out how to get their file servers moved into Office 365. We know how to do that. And the thing there is too, you can do the same thing, which is we can move the files into Teams. And for those people who don't want to work in Teams and they want to continue to work with what looks like map drives and Windows File Explorer, we will give them that experience. It's going to look just like map drives and Windows File Explorer. And I have a video here in the channel about that exact topic. But for those people who do want to do modern collaboration and sharing and linking and co-authoring of those documents and all the amazing things you can do with documents and collaboration inside of Teams, they can choose to do that. So you can have a hybrid setup and everybody's pointing to the same place. Those who want to work with their files in Teams can do so. Those who want to work their files inside of Windows File Explorer can do so. And we know how to make that work really well at Cerillion. So if you do have an IT team, we can support them and partner with them and get them launched. If you don't have an IT team and you outsource, we can be your IT team and get that done for you. Again, I have several videos here about that. And if you want to schedule a call with us, you can email us at support@cerillion.com or call us 847-995-9800. We'll set up a meeting, talk about your situation, and see what we can do to get you in this new modern workplace. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And this tells YouTube to push this out to other people like you who might be interested in this. And if you want to see future content from us at Cerillion, click that subscribe button and hit that little notification bell so you're made aware when we put out a new video, which generally is every couple weeks right now. If you have any questions about this video or the Microsoft phone system or Microsoft Teams or anything in the Microsoft cloud ecosystem, go ahead and put them in the comments below. And I can usually get back to them in about a day, and I really enjoy conversing with the community on anything Microsoft 365, Microsoft Azure, or Microsoft phone system related. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.